This is Dave, and welcome to Equities Story. I hope everyone had a really good weekend, and of course, this is and it's coming up any second now. This is obviously just general share advice and not personal advice, as per the disclaimer on the website. Wolf, you give me a hard time about English cricket, right? But I'd like to let you know we actually we drew the Ashes game yesterday.
Yeah, you did.
It's
You almost lost it, by the way.
Yeah, but it's the women are doing it for the UK. The women are fighting back.
True,
Like the
true.
men,
But
like the men couldn't fight back. The women are, right. So now, from my point of view, I'm just following the women's cricket,
fair
and
enough.
I'm not going to bother with the men till till at least they've got someone who can bat.
Is it the same thing with Wolverhampton? You're going to drop the team and just follow the women's
No, Wolverhampton are doing
team?
well. We support them. They're winning games, so we
Oh,
keep
okay,
that.
fair enough.
But
By the way, did you get a sneak peek or did you watch any of the tennis last night? It was just unbelievable tennis. I stayed up till 1 a.m. last night because they just went for 5.5 hours, riveting viewing all the way through. One of the best games I've ever seen. So I'm really stoked that I was part of that history. It was great.
No, I lost interest in the tennis as soon as Raducanu got knocked out.
Oh,
Yeah,
please, one-eyed bloody supporter, you.
yeah, I know. England, right. But what I would say, Wolf, talking about cricket, right? I didn't
Yeah.
know, but Poland, you
Did we
do have
play?
a cricket team, yeah? You
Did
do
we?
have a cricket team.
Yeah,
Like,
probably made out of ex-English and Australians, I'd say.
not really. If you actually look at the names here, much more sort of, um, certainly not very Polish. Those names, Singh, Daji, Babu. Um,
So Indians, in other words.
yeah.
Expats.
But unfortunately, you lost to Hungary, who, so so along.
You lose to Hungary.
How can you one play cricket and lose to Hungary? I don't. I've got no idea.
I don't
But
know.
you do have a good batsman called Maz Shakir, who scored 22.
Oh, he's
22.
obviously straight away call him up. Call him up for the. Well, he's already called up, but I wonder what his average is. Look,
So
Dave,
I'm just looking forward to England playing against Poland, hopefully in a few years. So at least we can.
we could have a conversation in 20 years' time.
It's fun beating you at football, but it's going to be a lot more fun beating you at cricket. Now, Wolf, let's talk about shares because that's what we're here for.
Come on.
Now, the market's still suffering a little bit. I don't think it's. You can see weird, Wolf. BHP down, Rio down, and the question is why? Because we saw iron ore again hitting record prices. The market not quite believing it.
Yeah, look, beats me why BHP and Rio are down when you consider that's $147 for iron ore. We haven't seen that for a while. So at least you'd think, you'd give some sort of support to both those stories for the time being. But the market's a funny beast at the moment, isn't it? It's very nervous, and maybe it's just waiting for the US to see what they do this week. So I'm thinking that I wouldn't be doing anything until I see the opening of the US markets.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking. Copper was down. Maybe that hasn't helped them. Iron ore, I'm not seeing that price, Wolf. I'm seeing it's sort of around the 135, but very stable, very high. I mean, I think historically 120 has been a great price for iron ore over the years. And you see most of the commodities pretty flat, so pretty stable. Yeah, no, interesting. It's just interesting to see BHP down because I'll tell you what, there was no Einsteins this weekend because one, we're redoing the back end of the system. And also, there was nothing really trading except three.
Dave, we know that because we did this in Cincinnati on Saturday, and we were looking through the whole day trying to find some good stories to talk about, and we couldn't find them.
Yeah, we had to go back in time and find good stories,
That's right? So we know that there's not going to be much Einsteins this weekend.
But two stocks that didn't look too bad were actually BHP and Rio. But you can see, obviously the chart's just not good enough, and Rio didn't look too bad, and certainly at the moment not going on with it. No, so Wolf, it was nothing trending. So unfortunately, we're not sort of short term. We're not excited about the market. I think what we are excited about is obviously the opportunity to buy good stories at good prices. And what I think everyone's got to be careful about, Wolf, is just not to get suckered in just yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we still believe this market's going to go lower over the next month, 2 months. And, you get these you can see the price action of the Dow last week, which doesn't look too bad. But you know what, Wolf, when the market goes down, you get these little bumps up, right? And then you get a little bit of weakness. It's very, very normal price action. If you look back here when the market, there's a little classic, little bump up and bang down it goes. So, and again, you can see if we go even to the GFC, you're going to get these little bumps up, little moves up. That's gonna say, "Wow, I'm going to get in the market. Everything's look cheap," but all it is just a sucker rally, and you're going to get absolutely burnt in it. And until we're sure that this isn't any sucker rally, short term. We're really, really going to be very, very cautious, and we're not going to be that interested in it. And I was listening to Jim Cramer. I think he's a great analyst, Wolf, in America.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And again, he just says we haven't had that that feeling, that final capitulation, which we often have. And I think that capitulation, when everyone's just selling and everyone's starting to running to the pub and really upset, that's when we're going to get even a little bit more interested that maybe we've hit a bottom. But it's certainly not yet, and we certainly do believe our market is much more likely in this environment to go lower. And I suppose the catalyst to that, we still haven't had the solution to the issue in Ukraine. And when you look at the politicians, Wolf, they really do seem to be preparing us, don't they, for some sort of incursion by the Russians. And again, these inflation numbers are just a worry around the world, and they don't seem to be getting any better. So those inflation numbers, interest rate rises, you just feel that the market hasn't quite yet bottomed. So
yeah, look, I think you're absolutely right. We just still got those short-term issues ahead of us, right? And that's, to me, the uncertainty. That's why I don't think the market would be running ahead of itself until we know what might happen in Russia and Ukraine and how these interest rates start playing out. So once the market sort of gets the hang of it, then I think it'll be okay. But I think the next month, this February, is still probably going to be volatile, just to see how things pan out globally with the pandemic, the conflict in Europe, inflation, and so on. So that's still probably the key.
Wolf, for years you've moaned that we don't have a big tech stock on our market, yes. Right? It's been a real bone of contention for you, and we do now. We've got Square, so the code is SQ2. Would this be a top 20 company now in our market?
I'd say so. I think I can't remember how they listed. Maybe a quarter. It's sort of a value of a quarter of what it is in the US, 4-to-1 ratio. So I think it's their market cap used to be about 80 billion. Maybe it's dropped down now because they've dropped 60-70% of this value on the tech sell-off. But it's still probably in the top 100 stocks in Australia, 100%. So definitely a great story, but it's been suffering. And, when you think about it, Dave, there's probably a big reason for that for me. I think they've overpaid for Afterpay. They bought it at the top of the market. They paid way overs. They could have waited 3 months and they would have picked it up for a quarter of the price they've paid for it.
Well, it's early days in our market with their chart, but we can have a look at the American chart, which tells us maybe a better picture. And yeah, they were on their way to $300, weren't they, at one stage? Yep. Not far off, and now they're down by
60%. 60%.
Yeah. Pretty. So yeah, obviously we're interested in this sort of story. It's a quality story, but at the end of the day, it could go back down to 50 for all we know. It was trading there only in March 2020 with this tech sell-off. So at the moment, obviously we're not interested in it, but happy to have such a big tech stock on our market. And if we get the opportunity sometime in the next 6 months, well, of course we'll be having a look at it, Wolf.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one to watch. And maybe the question also is, Dave, not just Square, but just the tech sector in general, because I've seen a lot of the 60-70% falls on a lot of those tech stocks. Are they done? Are they finally done? Maybe the market by itself has still a way to go, dropping down. but maybe the tech stocks will be lesser affected now because of their already earlier run and dropping by 60 to 70%. That's maybe what I'm thinking here. That's why we need to follow some of these squares and see how they travel over the next 2 or 3 months.
But you know what? Cincinnati traders, look at that.
Yeah, you're
down
working
the
out.
order level, you're out. It's this amazing system. Now, SES.
Yes.
I am so impressed the way this stock has traded in a very, very difficult climate we've had, Wolf, recently. And now they've come out with an announcement today. And those little sort of rubbish bags are doing very well. So tell us what's going on with SES, Wolf.
Yeah, it looks like the compostable MyEco bags that are sold in Woolies are the best-selling bags in Woolies by the surveys that they've done and the numbers that Woolworths put out. So they're very happy and they're singing, to the market, hello, look at our bags. They're being, I think they grew about 400%, 500% for them. And I think they're taking about 40% of the market share in this specific space. So these are it, and what a brilliant Australian company, huh? So
yeah, but also
that's why we like it.
You've got to love the marketing. I mean, they do everything. If you're walking across the shelves to realize what they are.
Yep.
The first thing you see is eco bag, fantastic. You've got the sort of cardboardy looking outside, which is very natural and absolutely fine. Look at just.
And you know what? The most important thing for me is the actual bags are green.
Yeah.
That is the biggest for me. It's like, oh, green bags. Oh yeah, they are green bags. Because a lot of them go in there, they are white.
No, that's true. Yeah, go the green bags. But I mean, Wolf, you've got everything about it you've got to like, haven't you?
Yeah, you do. Great. Look, I think they marketed it beautifully. So well done to them. Hopefully that will keep going. The growth will keep going in Woolies, and hopefully they'll find more places to sell their bags. Because first of all, they're not just bags to be sold. They are actually like they say, earth friendly. They're compostable. So over time they'll biodegrade, and you're not gonna the earth is not gonna suffer because of it. So well done, and that's why we like this story, and we're still keeping faith in it.
And still a hold at the moment. 3DP Wolf below trend, so we're not interested at the moment. But not a bad little.
Yeah, I like the growth. This is one of the Bevan Slater investments that he made, and it's accelerating growth in the US, and I like it. If it starts trending, I'm in.
Right. What sort of growth were you seeing from them?
Oh, I think you're almost looking at 100% per annum. Coming off a small base, remember, but still, when you see that growth, even off a small base, it is. You got to take notice.
So, I mean, on the watch list, Wolf, as soon as bounces over that 42, it might not be for a month or two, but certainly we'll be watching it. We had a lot of stories like that, and that's why we're going to talk about these stories. So these are stories we just want you to get on your watch list. If we can get a little bit of a movement on them, well, we're interested. So SiteMinder, how did they announce, Wolf?
Yeah, look, for me, in a difficult market with the lockdowns and the travel, because these guys are in the leisure space, and they do they are tech companies, so obviously that wasn't helped for them either. So they're holding reasonably well in a market that's really tough for them, and I like the growth, even though in a very tough market. 10% growth, Dave, is commendable to say the least.
Well, it's for a $1.5 billion company. That's pretty strong, isn't
it? Exactly. So for me, I think obviously you've got to give it a bit more time. And if we get back to some sort of normality by the second half of the year, traveling is open up even more, then maybe you'd see it back over $6 and maybe going back to that $6.50, $7.
And it's not cheap, Wolf, is it? They've got AR of 111 million, so it's possibly still 14 times.
Yeah, it's not going to be the cheapest stock ever, but it is the number one in its space, so it's always going to attract the premium. It is a growth industry that's also going to, attract. So I don't think it'll ever trade. Well, it might trade below 10, but what I'm thinking is that normally great stories attract the premium, so it's probably going to be on north of the 10 times EV revenue equation.
NXT Wolf. obviously a favorite. Hopefully, I'm looking at the chart now. Hopefully that $10 is going to be a little bit of support, and we're going to get into some sort of range.
Yep.
But they came out with an announcement today. Were you pleased with that one?
Yeah, look, it's just adding more pretty much revenues because they're adding more customer work to the business. So for me, extra means extra revenues, positive. I'm happy. The only problem is, of course, is the market is just re-rating everything at this stage. So we just don't know when are we going to get back into it. That's my only thing. I mean, hopefully the holds at $10, and it can go on. The problem with story like this, and maybe SiteMinder, like you said, slightly expensive. So just don't know how far the market's prepared to re-rate it for.
All right, VHT, Volpara, a New Zealand company. We just obviously the share price action is looking very, very poor. We need it to do a lot more for us to get interest in the story, but again, not a bad announcement.
Yeah, one-time market darling, if I remember right, a couple of years back, Dave. But it's obviously fallen off its perch. It was just too expensive. Used to trade on 700 million market cap with like 5 million revenues. It was just a bit crazy. So it's just gone through that re-rating. But this one's been going through a re-rating for the last 2 years.
Yeah, but I mean, it's what's it, 220 million market cap, and their revenue guidance is around sort of 25 million New Zealand dollars.
So it's now getting to a stage of let's look at me, watch listed. That's why we want to talk about it, because another great company that's revenues are growing. It's servicing the very, very important market of breast cancer imaging. So yeah, it's one of those companies you need to have on your watch list.
Yeah, definitely. And you'd think, obviously, with COVID for the last 2 years, where we've been sort of locked away a lot, they've got a little bit of catching up to do.
Exactly, absolutely right.
Now let's have a look at M7T. So again, they've got sales orders rose by 5.9 million, or 37% to 22.1 million in the quarter. Record FYT sales orders of 22.1 million, up 206% on last year. That's pretty respectful, Wolf.
Yeah, we had a pretty flat year last year, right? And remember, these stories, because they're still fairly young and growing their revenues, they could have a fairly jumpy year-on-year performances, and we've seen that. 2020 was excellent. 2020 was pretty flat. So now they're looking back to accelerate that growth. And I can see a pivot here, Dave. I can see that coming back over 80, 85 cents, and maybe you'll see some interest return to it. And again, watch list. We're waiting for that time where the market's saying, yes, buy me.
So another good story. Get on your watch list, and we just got to be patient for it.
Yep.
ORG. So a bigger story. Actually is trending above trend lines. They're not looking too bad. How is that? Why have we got this one on the list?
Because they come up with a quarterly, which wasn't too bad, but also we want to talk about it because if there's a Ukraine Russia stoush and gas goes through the roof, this doesn't look too bad on the charts, Dave. So I'd be putting this on my watch list.
Definitely, and I mean, I'm looking at this chart here. I mean, we actually had it on Einstein's here, so we thought it was going to have that little run up to here.
You did.
And this is why we love these old trend lines. So a little bit of resistance there. But you know what, Wolf? I think if we can break through that 585, maybe we got a target price of 7. So this could be one of the ones to play.
Yep.
In the sort of the end of the world. Yeah.
Scenario. Absolutely. I think this has pivoted nicely. Actually, it's had that. See, that $4 was a great support, hasn't it? It's bounced off so many times at $4. So it had a long time, almost 2 years of consolidation, and now the market's waking up, and we've got a condition starting to almost like all the stars are lining up, isn't it, for ORG and some of the other players in this space. So for me, it could have 6 months of really strong performance, and like I said, maybe that $7 could be on the cards.
If you look at it in the past, look at it from 2017, it can trend quite nicely when it gets going.
Exactly.
If you go back in time, that's what we feel we're at now. We just break above that little last line of resistance. I reckon we have a nice little run.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I said, and you're trading a pretty good big story, right? It's not as it's a terrible story. It's actually not bad. And they've got one little jewel in the crown, and I think they bought out of the UK called Octopus or something. And that's been going gangbusters for them. So you never know. This could go for a bit of a run.
Wolf, we know you like Bub. We know you love your
I like my goat stuff. Yes.
You like your goat baby formula, which
I have. Oh, I have goat cheese almost on a daily basis.
okay. Do you have Bubs as well? Does she give it to
No,
you?
no, unfortunately not.
Natalie doesn't give it to you in the bottle, no.
No.
But record quarterly gross revenue, 19.9 million. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, some companies that are having some good announcements today, Wolf.
Yeah.
And it seems to form some sort of base around here.
Mm-hmm.
Again, thank God for the Cincinnati system, which got us out at 90. Bang, down it goes, nearly right, but it's starting to look a little bit better. You know what, Wolf? It doesn't matter. Buy this at 60 cents when we know the story's really back on, and we'll take it back up to $1.
Yep.
STG.
Mm-hmm.
This is a stock you were very, very interested in the past, because this was going to be the sort of, we are thinking possibly the new Appen. It hasn't worked out like that. So,
it looks still pretty good, Dave. When you look at the numbers today, that looked growth. That was growth in there. That IBM contract, the big one that they've won. That's why they had a couple of big runs on the back of that. That's still looking pretty good. So look, I'm expecting that with time that will recover. Remember, a lot of these sad-looking charts is not because of the company, it's because of that re-rating we're getting on the tech space. So as long as you keep delivering, as long as the company does their own thing and keeps delivering good news, it will pivot and reverse course.
Yeah, well, Wolf, I'm sorry, the market cap's 93 million, right? They're saying here they've got 60 million annualized revenue run rate, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's cheap. It's cheap,
isn't it?
On a revenue basis, absolutely, it's cheap. I mean, that's the sort of stocks we want to look at. But like I said, if you bought it because it's cheap, you'd still be swimming against the tide at the moment, right? So remember, we don't buy things because they're cheap. We want to buy things that are cheap and the actual thing is trending. That makes sense. So we just got to wait for that moment where investors are going, yeah, look, I think the sell-off has been overdone. It's time to start looking at these stories and pushing them back up again, at least to some sort of normal level, because 3 times revenue is ridiculously cheap.
All right, let's go look at art.
Yeah.
Now again, Wolf, a stock that's been absolutely polaxed.
Yeah. Unfairly, may I say.
So, what are we looking at here?
Upgrade. Maybe is this the pivot that they needed? Remember, I mean, that's why we like the story, because they keep coming up with upgrades, and down she goes. So it's probably been classified as a really bad story for the lockdowns, and it has been absolutely, because if you look at the presentation today, they encircle all the times that they had a poor quarterly because of the lockdowns, right? Because they are selling services, in other words, and if you lock down, you can't get any services. So understandably, this has been hit, but I think it's probably now looking pretty cheap.
Right. Well, this is really the talk of stocks to get on your watch list, ready for till they approve. And what about Credit Clear?
Yeah, look, another one that's possibly up there, but for me, no. When they did the acquisition recently, they pivoted away from the actual being more of a tech stock, more being like a credit corp. That just does not, changes to be the story. So,
and there's better companies in that.
Yeah, space. Exactly. So I'm going to pass on that one for the moment.
So what about RPM, which has actually broken above trend, funny enough, right? Maybe not off your favorite business model, but what did you make of their announcement?
Very strong growth. Look at the numbers. Look at the announcement today. Looks pretty strong. That's why it's bounced. And while you say it's maybe not my cup of tea, it's almost like the boring businesses are great businesses these days, Dave. So it should be my cup of tea. I should be looking at this pretty closely.
Well, they've got their gross profit up 102% to 7.5 million.
Exactly.
I mean, respect.
Yeah.
HTG, bad looking chart, Wolf.
It is a bad looking chart, and probably one that we need to just probably give it a bit more time to see what they can deliver.
All right, we're going to leave that one alone. Now, STV,
Yep.
an old favorite. They come down, maybe some support here, right, on that trend line, which historically in the past has sort of these sort of trend lines do give a little bit of support. What do you make of their trading update?
Pretty solid from me. I'm thinking, did it deserve that 80 cents to 53 cents come down? Probably not. It's just, again, markets being the markets at the moment, selling down some of these stories. I'd say maybe that 50 cents will be a very good support, Dave. And I think on that announcement, it should hold at 50 cents. And I'd say pivot back towards that 60 plus.
And again, Wolf, looking at trading 2 times revenue.
Exactly.
Really? It is, isn't it? Okay. But like we said, if Russia go into Ukraine, these things could get cheaper.
Could get to 1 times.
IGO.
Look, a positive announcement for me. Strong revenues, profit. What's the not to like about IGO? IGO is at the moment really at the top of its game.
So if you're in it, you're holding it for the long term. If you're a trader, you are out at the moment because it broke that trend last week. But if it gets back over 12, then certainly you can have a look at it by the end of the week and get back into the story. Wolf, another one, which has got to be a big one on the watch list, is DTC, Damstra. The stock has never traded so low, down to around 30 cents.
Yep.
You've got a market capitalization now of 76 million, right? Absolutely incredible. And you're looking at quarterly revenue of 7.2, so 14, say 28. Is this 1 times revenue then?
No, they are trading. I think their full year guidance is about between 30 and 35 million in revenues. So if they're trading on 7 million, they're about 2 times revenue. So it looks cheap, right? What it is interesting is that it finally stopped the rot of downgrades. They've reiterated the guidance today, so that's a positive for me. This could be the pivot. The 30 cents could be the as low as she goes. I mean, we could see it by the end of the year if they can, like I said, if they can stop that rot, and that was the first sign today that they have done, and then they can start coming and fulfilling their promises, then I could see this easily getting back to 60 cents, easily. So you could double your money from here, right? But like I said, it's, you don't want to catch a falling knife. You want to see some pivot. You want to see some positive return to the story first. There's a first step today, but one step is not enough. We need a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. It's not the way we like to trade, but certainly, Wolf. At the moment, what you can see is this trend line is actually falling down pretty quickly. It's coming down pretty fast. Maybe there'll be a time sometime in the next few months it can jump over that.
You know what I think, Dave, what's going to happen over the next 6 to 12 months? There's going to be some M&A frenzy going on with some of these stories. Some of these stories are so cheap. I could see private equity. I can see all these sort of things coming in and buying these things out and then reselling them back in again in 2 years' time for 10 times what they bought it at. That's how silly these markets are.
Well, let's have a look at IHR, Wolf, because their market cap is 57 million. Their announcement, I mean, again, you wouldn't look to buy this company the way the chart is looking. They're a very early day story, though, aren't they, with low revenues?
They are. Look, they're growing, yes, but they're still coming off a very low base. It's actually still fairly expensive, even at 50 million, because I think their annual revenues are about 3 something. So they're over 10 times. So they need to do a little bit of catching up to do with the revenues. But, again, I like the company. I like the products that they've got. Watch list. Let's see what happens.
All right. Let's have a look at PTG, Wolf, because, again, I know you like this story. But again, these are...
this is my no-brainer, Dave.
Well, this is trading on a market cap of 69 million, right?
Yeah.
But this is still... let's have a look at these
And what's the revenue of PTG for the full year? Let's have a look. So I think this is fairly cheap. That's why it's a no-brainer. So what did you say? 60 million something?
Yeah. I think the revenues are still pretty low though.
No, they're over 10. So there would be, let's have a look. So cash receipts. So they had 5 million, almost 6 million quarter this time around. This is almost 20 million in revenues, Dave.
And they've got 14.8 million in cash.
Exactly.
Pretty
So
impressive.
20 million, 70 million market cap. That's cheap.
Right. So you just got to see this get back over 56, the trend. Another one for the watch list.
Well, if you back Wolfie, you're buying it as a crazy idea. No brainer. But remember, it's like I said last week, long term. I don't want to hear complaints after a week. It's not doing anything.
It could easily go back down to 40.
That's right, exactly. We expect volatility here. But it was a great announcement last week, and really sets it up for another incredible 12 months. They're talking huge revenues, Dave, growth. So I'm pumped. I'm going to see if I can talk to these guys. I'm going to actually give them a call and see if we can get an interview.
Just trying to give you a monthly. I mean, it's not a strong enough stock really to.
No. It's just too early. But you got to love the management and the style. So that's what you're backing. Remember, we've always said.
So really, everyone, get this on your watch list. If we can get over 56 cents, we can start trending. You know, the reason we're not buying these under trend, this is all the hard money, right? We want to see this get into a more positive framework, and then we'll be interested, right? You know, it's all about taking easy runs of money. We're just not interested in this down here. We're interested in these moves, right? They're quicker, they're harder, they're faster, and a lot more enjoyable to be in the stock over that time. But again, Wolf, some great announcements, some great stories, right?
I know.
I mean, if as soon as we can get a bottom, my word, Wolf, we got some money we can make on these.
Oh, let's talk about the most impressive one today, and that's the one we love, PlaySide.
All right, go on, far away.
I mean, look at the revenues today. They are on track to double their revenue for 2022, right? So they hit about 10 million odd in FY21. So today's 5 point something million in revenues. Annualize it, and you've got a 20 million revenue side for 2022. That's 100% growth. That's why we love the story. That's why we think this is, still a good play, and that's why they've been holding up very well. I'm extremely surprised how well they've held up in this strong sell-off. So anytime there was a sell-off, if you had a cheeky bid, you would have picked it up at 80 cents or something like that, right?
Well, you know what they've done well, Wolf? They've raised that 28 million at the right time as well.
Absolutely. Perfect timing.
And again, they've got a number of good games that are coming out over the next 6 months, which could see this go higher. So, for me, if you're a short-term trader, you're selling it when it broke below $1. But long term, you're a holder as long as it doesn't break the trend line. Right?
Long term, you should be laughing all the way to the bank because it's delivered to us. It's been a doubler for us, isn't it? No, tripler for us.
Tripler. It's been very good. And if for the patient, it could go on and on with it. Wolf, some fantastic stories today, and we've got a number of stories here which are hopefully everybody's writing these stories down. They're remembering what we said. They're looking for these as a time to buy. Once we see these as a time to buy, we'll have them on Einstein's anyway on the weekends, or we'll mention it midweek. But good stories, and it's good to see a number of Australian companies, Wolf, at last not looking like they're overvalued, and at last really hitting some great revenue growth. Impressive.
Well, the thing is, they were going quite well before this sell-off. They look like they've done something wrong, but they haven't, because they still reminding everyone that they're actually doing very, very well. So it gets me more excited to buy these things when we see a little bit of stability. Then you go, thank you very much. I don't have to pay double what I thought I'm going to have to pay.
Listen, Wolf, on that note, absolutely fantastic. I look forward obviously doing this tomorrow. There are some ideas maybe there for people who are very, very patient who have a long-term approach. But, if you play by this equity storage system, just be patient and we'll tell you when to get into them.
Absolutely.
On that note, Wolfie, thank you very, very much. And look forward to doing this tomorrow. And we've got live tomorrow at 7 o'clock?
Yes, we do. As per usual.
Thanks, Wolf. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Bye.